Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. This is Tableau Gift Officer Action Reports. This is me. I am Glenn Kendall with Concourse Hosting. Usually accompanying me on the webinars is Holly Kendall, but she's on vacation today, so I'm going to be going solo on this one. So bear with me if it takes a little bit longer for me to navigate your questions and whatnot as we go. So the way this works is if you're new to GoToWebinar, there's this big control panel on the side there. What you're going to want to do is take the section under the wombat that says questions and hit the little box with the arrow on it and pop that out. And that will allow you to ask questions just in that box during the webinar, and then hit the arrow, the red arrow there at the top, and that will collapse the whole control panel down. That way you can see what's going on, you know, and even follow along in Tableau yourself if you want to. And then please feel free to just ask questions as we go, and I'll do my best to pay attention to that and answer your questions. Tools that I'm going to be using today: Tableau Desktop and Tableau Server. So Tableau Desktop is really the building tool. If you're new to Tableau, this is where all the fun stuff happens, where you build things, format things, all of that. Tableau Server is then where you publish things to. However, Tableau Server can also be a place that you get the data from. So I'm going to be using a new data source that we've just created based on RE query called the Actions Data Source, and that's published to our Tableau Server site. It'll make more sense once I get going here, but that's where the data is going to be coming from and how all that connects together. And today I'm going to be making about 3 different worksheets focusing on different things, again, related to gift officer actions. We're going to look at donuts versus lollies. I'm going to do a calculated field that does a ranking based into different tiers of gift officers for maybe looking at performance based on actions. And then we'll do a summary table and build a dashboard there at the end. So just to get going here, I'd like to ask you guys a question. And I'm just curious if you want to just give me the answer in the, in that question window there. How are you currently doing reports related to gift officer actions? So just take a moment and go ahead and type in your answer there, and I will get myself situated and over into Tableau. Some people are using Excel, Crystal Reports, Crystal Reports, Crystal Reports. Lots of people using Crystal Reports. Some people use SSRS, which is Microsoft Reporting Services, and Tableau. Other people using Tableau. So it sounds like, so in order to get at that data, I'm curious, do you do exports, or do you connect directly to your Razor's Edge database? Let's go ahead and type the answer in there. Looks like most people do exports. Okay. Exports, canned reports, pivot tables. One person does a direct connection and does extracts. Okay, so firing up Tableau here. This is Tableau Desktop. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect to Tableau Server. I can connect to, files if I have an export, or directly to a SQL server or Tableau server. So I'm going to connect to Tableau Server, and I've made this Actions data source. So this is something that if you get Tableau with us here at Concourse, we create these different data sources that mirror how Razor's Edge query works. So this is new. We just created one for actions. We already have one for gifts, and we have one for constituents. For the constituents, we also geocode your data. And the reason we did these is because when we first started doing Tableau with people, we were doing more of making the data sources look like sort of what the back end looked like in SQL itself, which we found was confusing for people. So we took a different tack and said, okay, let's try to make data sources that look more like what's going on in Razor's Edge. The same fields, in the same order, kind of the same stuff you have in Razor's Edge when you're building a query. So that's what we do. So we basically take your data from a backup, or if you're hosted with us, we do a refresh automatically, or just however often you get us a backup, and then build these and do an extract, and these are available automatically for you. Okay. So just starting out here, I'm going to just do something simple for looking at actions related to a specific solicitor. So I really have a couple different areas that I'm drawing information from. You know, this is a pretty simple data source. I have action information, I have solicitor information. So again, this mirrors how things work in Razor's Edge. So I'm going to start with a solicitor name and drag this over to the filter. Keep in mind here that what I'm working with is data from the sample database. We've added a few other things in there as well, but it's kind of older data. So, but this will look familiar if you're looking at things within the Razor's Edge sample database. So here's all my solicitors in there, and then I can filter on it, and then I can show the filter over here. And so this is one that, you know, you want to move that control panel out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. So when I say show filter, it shows up over here on the right. And then I'm going to format this to say single value dropdown. So this way I can just pick one solicitor at a time and kind of go through, and we're going to break down their different actions. Someone asked a question, can my screen be made any larger? I'm showing things maximum size here. Can everyone else see things okay? I think I'm showing things on maximum size. Let's see what everyone else is seeing. Yeah, I think just try to make the window as big as possible within your screen. So I don't know if I can make things any bigger on my end. That's maybe a function of how you have things set up on your end. All right, so now one thing that you might be tempted to do if you're not used to making things in Tableau is to make the dreaded pie chart. So we'll start with, over here in actions, there's different categories. So we're going to drag that over to the colors. And then the number of records, I'm going to put over here on size. And Tableau automatically picks something that it thinks fits best. But I can say I want that to be a pie chart. So pie charts are kind of a no-no, and they've gotten a lot of bad rap, and for good reason, because the reason pie charts aren't a really good visualization tool is it's really hard to tell the difference between these different values in here, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at one specific solicitor at a time and saying, okay, what are all the categories of actions that this person has done? If I break it down into a pie chart, it's hard to read, it's kind of ugly and all of that. So as an alternative to a pie chart, what I'm going to do is make something called a donut chart. It's kind of like a pie chart, but it has a hole in the middle. So I'm going to make that, and also basically do exactly the same thing with something else called a lollipop chart. So you guys can, and we'll compare the two, and then you guys can tell me what you think looks better, a donut or a lollipop. All right, so to make a donut chart, start with a pie chart, good old ugly pie chart here. And then what we're going to do is take the number of records and drag this over to our rows. And then we're going to do it again. And I'm going to change this measure here to minimum. Also change this to minimum. Don't worry about what this means at the moment. Just kind of follow along and just know this is how you make a donut chart. And then I'm going to do something called dual axis. So really what this has done is it's made two different charts, one on top of, one above the other. But dual axis literally puts them on top of each other. So now there's two charts, there's two pie charts, one is sitting on top of another. Okay? Over here in my marks card, so I have, this is pie chart number 1. And then down here, if I click on this one, this is pie chart number 2. All right, so what you do is take pie chart number 2, and we're going to remove these things that we had put on the first pie chart, and make the background color the same as our background, or make the color, rather, of this pie the same as our background, just white. So now it disappears. Then we're going to change the size, make it a little smaller. So now we're starting to get a donut. So we can go back over here to the size on this one, make it bigger, make the whole thing bigger. Actually, let's hide the headers here. Oh, go to size. All right, maybe something like that. So it's like a pie chart, but it's a donut chart. Some of the things that you can do with it now are throw some labels on here to make it a little easier to see. One of the things I want to do right off the bat is first change this color scheme a little bit. Let's see, it's summertime, so let's go with a summer palette. And then maybe make one of these a slightly different color so we don't have two greens going on at the same time. All right, so we have some more sort of happy pastel-y stuff going on here. And the next thing we can do is put some labels on here. So maybe we can go with the number of records on this one. And then on the bottom pie chart, might not be clear who we're talking about, so we can go down to solicitor, solicitor name, put that on the label. And let's put that in the middle. So I'm formatting the label here. Make this a little bit bigger, say 14, bold. Let's make the labels on these ones a little bit bigger. Say 12. Okay, so we can see a little bit better here what's going on. This is Allison. These are the different categories of things. For this action, mailings, emails, etc. It's still basically a glorified pie chart, but it is a little more, is definitely easier to see. And you can play with some different things with the labels. So right now we're looking at labels as a straight number. One of the things we might want to do is add a table calculation and instead make this a % of the total. So you can do this automatically. It does a sum, but then in addition to the sum, you can say, okay, pick one of these things. We can do it as a percent of the total, and then maybe format this. We don't care about those percentages. Seeing the decimal points on the percentages. Why can't I see where the numbers are here? Oh, maybe I have to pick the field. Oh, it's this one here. So for I'm formatting the number of records and within the pane. So I want this to be a percentage. No, that's not doing it there. Sorry about that. I can't find exactly where that percentage is for formatting to get rid of the decimal places on there. But if you do it this way, you can see you get a little bit more information about how relative they are to each other. So, this is one way to look at the data for the action reports. And then because we have the solicitor name over here, we can pop down to see a different one. We can just go through our solicitors and see what percentage of their actions are. Use different categories. We can format the tooltip a little bit if we want to say, actually throw in on the tooltip the number of records themselves. So we could say, for a given category, we want to look at the number of records, something like that. Well, now I've formatted that one as a percent. I need to put this on the tooltip. There we go. Okay. Category, number of records. Well, I think I got myself screwed up with the formatting over here, but you get the idea. So this is a donut chart. So we'll rename this one to say Action Donut by Gift Officer. All right. Now let's pop over and do a similar sort of thing, but do a lollipop chart instead. So a lollipop chart works like this. So you're going to grab similar sort of thing with the dual axis. So we're going to do the number of records here twice in the columns. And then for the rows, we're going to put in category. And then we're going to make this a dual axis chart. And for the bars here, we want the first one to be a bar and then the second one to be a circle. So that's going to make it a lollipop. So in the first one, we want the size of the stick of the lollipop to be small. whatever size we want there. And then for the second one, we want the size, depending on how big you like your lollipops to be, make the circle a little bigger accordingly there. Okay. Trying to get this, the sizes between these to be a little bit bigger. There we go. Again, to make it work like the last one, we'll pull solicitor name over here, do all of those, show the filter, and we're going to do solicitor name as a single value drop down, the same as we did. So we're just looking at Allison here. We can sort the categories so that we're showing the ones that have the most going on first. And then to make it look like a lollipop, we can go back here to color, make the stick of the lollipop maybe dark gray. We'll throw a little border on it. And then the circle of the lollipop, maybe add the color, same as we were doing before. We have different color lollipops. This one, we can do a border on it to make it pop out a little bit more. We can add the number of records to the label, so you can see, you know, what we're talking about there in terms of a number. Because this is dual axis, we can, you know, get rid of one of those things that shows the number of records. Format. Make this a little bit bigger. Make this one a little bit bigger. And we can also take the solicitor name and put it up here above, so we can see on the chart itself who it is that we're talking about. Let's hide the name, so we just get the actual value on there. We don't need to put, it's kind of redundant to put the solicitor name on there. Okay, a little bit of formatting. So there we see, you know, a different way to look at it. Lollipop versus donut. So we'll rename the sheet. We'll call this Action Lolly by Gift Officer. And, you know, you can always format these labels too, make them a little bit bigger. Or we can do the same thing here, where we make it, instead of just a raw number, we can make it a % of the total. Move the label to the right. Still kind of being covered up there, so we might have to make the size of the lollipop a little smaller. You know, something like that. So a couple of different ways to look at actions that are happening by solicitor. All right, any questions about this? Any preference? Do you guys prefer a donut chart or a lollipop chart? Which do you think looks better? Is anyone still out there? Donut. Some people like them both. You know, it also might come down to what you're trying to do. You can, you know, because this takes up a certain amount of real estate, and this takes up, you know, a different amount of real estate a different way. So it could depend on how you want to display the data within a dashboard. And, you know, just know that there's different options for doing things, and you can pick the one that works best for you. Just good to learn some of these skills. All right, let's make another one here that does that's looking at all of our gift officers and do a little bit of ranking of their actions. So to do that, we're going to, again, start with the number of records here. So this is just counting the number of actions that are taking place. And we're going to look at that across solicitors. So for all of our solicitors then, here's how they rank. I want to get rid of this null. So anytime you have data like this that doesn't make sense that you just want to get rid of in the viz, you can just right click on it and say exclude. And what Tableau will do is make a filter and just take it out. So now it's gone. So one of the things we might want to do right off the bat is just sort this to say, okay, I want to see the ones who have the most actions at the top. So what I did there is just go up to solicitor name and then hit sort. And then I'm sorting by the number of records. Then you can do either ascending or descending. Descending means put the most first. So that's what I'm doing here. So whichever one has the most is going to show up at the top. Another thing I can do is rank these. So it's kind of obvious already which ones are first based on that. And that shows the number of records there, the number of actions, but I can also assign a rank just using a quick table calculation. So I know this person's number 1, this person's number 2, this person's number 3, and so on down the line. It also might be interesting to kind of break things up just in terms of groups of people. To say, okay, who's my top third, who's my middle third, who's my bottom third in terms of actions and performance. So to do that, I'm going to make a calculated field, and I'm going to call that tier. And I already have the formula down here for that I'm just going to copy and paste in here. We'll send you the formula at the end. I just want to walk you through what this formula is doing real quick. So basically, what I just did with the rank. So it's doing that same calculation here. So if you have, again, the sum of the number of records, so the total number of actions, if the rank of that is in the top third, so 0.33, top 33%, right, of the total count of the number of solicitors. So this count D means a distinct count on the solicitor name. So just in case you have two solicitors with the same name. So it'll count basically the number of solicitors. So if you have, 9 solicitors, it'll take 33% of that. It'll take the top 3, literally, and that'll be your top third. Okay. Else, if they are in the rank of more than 33%, but less than 67%, then they're in middle third, else bottom third. So we create this tier, this calculated field rather, called tier. And then what we can do is drag this up to color. And then right away, this breaks things down. My top third, my middle third, my bottom third, just like that. I can format this where I pick the colors to say maybe top green, make the bottom red, make the middle yellow, that's fine. Just so it's a little more natural looking in terms of what you would think of top, middle, bottom. We can also sort this legend so that we're saying the top third is at the top, middle third's in the middle, bottom third's at the bottom, like that. We can edit the title, just call this tier, maybe make it a little bigger. And there you go. So we don't have to keep this one as rank. We can clear the table calculation and just leave this to be the number of actual actions taking place there. Maybe do a little more formatting. Make these a little bit bigger. And format here, make this one a little bit bigger. So some of the things that you will probably want to do on here, again, so this is like all actions across all time. So you're going to want to throw a date on the filter. You can do range of dates or relative dates. I'm just going to do relative date in terms of years. Because I don't have that much data in the sample database, I'm going to leave it to be something that you would never do, which is the last 20 years, and show that filter. But then you get the person a choice that's using your worksheet. They can choose what period of time they want to look at and update things accordingly. So that's probably one thing you want to include. Another is whether the action was completed. Completed actions. Yes, no. Both. You can show that filter. You can maybe do it as a slider. So that way they can pick to say, I want all. I want actions that are not completed. I want actions that have been completed. And then also filter on the category itself. Show this filter. Multi-value dropdown. So do we want to see all categories, or am I only interested in visits? Like I only want to see meetings or meetings and phone calls. So by doing things like that, you can give your users a little more control over things and let them choose how they want to see things within the visualization. Someone asked the question, can you add the completed yes, no to the bar? So you get to see out of all the actions for a person, how many were completed and how many not. Yes, you can do that. That might be a different sheet than this because we're showing color on here. You'd have to figure out how you would want to represent that. So for example, I could drag not category, but completed over. Let's choose all the categories so that we will see some no's in there. There we go. So you could do something like this. This might be a little bit confusing though, to use the color in addition to this, because we're seeing, you know, the rank. So this person ranks well for completed, but ranks in the bottom for not completed. So that might not make sense. So in that case, you might say, okay, let's just take the tier thing out and do, instead of putting completed there, maybe put completed on color. Something like that, so that you have it in a bar chart and you can see how many were completed, how many not completed. Something along those lines, yeah. Cool. So I'm just going to go back to where we were. So when you're working in Tableau, you can always hit the back arrow, like I did up here, and that will just undo what you did. So it'll take you back to where you were. So you can just keep undoing. So you can, that lets you experiment with things and whatnot. So I'm going to rename this sheet to be gift officer tiers maybe. And let's do one more quick one that gives us a little more detail. So if we want to do category and then also type, then we can do that. And then maybe do number of records. And then we can put the solicitor name up here. And again, if we filter by the solicitor name, then we'll just be looking at one solicitor at a time there. So to show how that works, let me just put solicitor name up here in the filter. Show the filter, and we're going to say single value dropdown. So again, we're just picking one at a time. So in this case, just looking at Allison again, here's the breakdown of her categories of actions and then the type of action. So if we say, okay, we're just interested in her meetings, then we can say, okay, what was the breakdown of what kinds of meetings that those were? Format this, again, just make it a little bigger. This one can be gift officer, maybe action summary. And then what you can do is, this becomes more interesting when you combine it with one of the other worksheets in a dashboard. So my buttons down here at the bottom, the far left button is a new worksheet. This middle button is a new dashboard. So I clicked on that to make a dashboard. A dashboard is a collection of worksheets. And you can just double click, and it'll just add it in there. I don't like where it put it, so I can just drag this one, say I want it below that one. Then what you can do is tell it, I want to use this worksheet here as a filter. So I click on Use as Filter, so that when I click on it, the worksheet below automatically updates to show that particular solicitor. One of the other things you can do related to that is you can go over here to the gift officer tiers, and you can apply these filters that we have in place to the other worksheets. So if you go to, by default, it's just going to apply it just to that worksheet. But if you can say, oh, I want to select certain worksheets I want it to apply to. So you can pick that other worksheet, and then you see the filter updates over here. And even the solicitor name. So that way, when you are making a dashboard, you know that the filters are working in conjunction with each other. And so when I pick a category to say, hey, I'm only really interested in, meetings. I'm interested in visits. So I'm going to update my category to just choose that. I want to see completed meetings. We already have the date in there. And then when I click on that particular solicitor, it updates down below. Okay, well, hopefully this gives you some ideas for how to look at actions in different ways in Tableau. As you can see, there's a lot of different, views and whatnot, ways that you can look at it. It's pretty simple to get started in here. I think actions is one of those things that, because there's less data than some of the other data sources, it's easier to manipulate and create something that's, you're interested in. So that's really all I had prepared for you today. Did you guys have any questions before we go here? Someone had the question, how did you connect the data or query to Tableau? Okay, so that's a really good question. So what we do is I have a data source. So a data source is something in Tableau server that you publish into Tableau server, that's where your data is. So this is a service that we have here at Concourse where we take your data out of Razor's Edge and we build these data sources for you. Actions, constituents, gifts. So this is all your data, literally all of your data. We pull it all out of Razor's Edge and build a Tableau, what's called a Tableau extract. And now it's in there for you to query against. Because it's an extract in Tableau, it's indexed in such a way that it's really fast. So you can literally query, all of your gift data, all of your action data, whatever, for all time, and it'll be fast in there. Okay. Someone asked the question, will we receive a recording of this webinar? Yes, we will send out a link to the recording at the end. Basically what I do is take all of these after we are done and put it on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and view previous webinars in there as well, ad nauseum. And, yeah, that'll be available for you to check out. And I'll also send you a copy of this calculated field for tier. So we'll send a link to both the calculated field and the webinar recording here at the end. And yeah, any other questions? All right, well, thank you all for joining today. I am going to hang on here for just a little while longer and field any other questions, but otherwise, I just want to thank you all for coming today, and thanks for your time. Take care.